Hi, good morning internet. Spare day off today, so we didn't get to do any work on the bike on Monday really, so we're going to have a bit of a catch-up day today. So what's the plan for today? Well, it's going to be a bit of flatting before base coat. Now I know this is going to be a bit contentious really, because I have always believed in wet flatting. And there's quite a lot of people now who don't see that that is the right way to do it. You know, I know that primer is porous by its nature. It's a porous product. So the naysayers who don't like to wet flat would say that the water can soak through the porous material into the substrate. So if you've got a metal tank, for example, it's going to make the tank hot, potentially rust in the future. The water's going to go through, and then if you base coat over that, there's every possibility that the water's going to be there still under the lacquer, sealed in, and it's going to cause blistering in the future. Now I've never known that, and I've always been one for wet flatting. I worked for 10 years in a professional body shop, and they wet flat, you know, all the cars that they were repairing. So I know that, again, the difference can be said that, well, you know, they've got proper spray booths where the paint is baked, and, you know, after they've wet flatted, they'll put the vehicle in the spray booth and dry it properly. And I think that's the key. I think it is that as long as the after the wet flatting, as long as the primer is given a chance to dry out thoroughly, and you have made every effort to dry it out, and that can be by using a heat gun or just a warm environment really, then it's going to be okay. I've never had a reaction with any of the paintwork that I've done because I've wet flatted. Why am I going to wet flat? Well, wet flatting for me is so you get a really smooth base for the base coat to be applied to. So you really want the panel to be as smooth as possible. Again, you'll have some people that will say, well, that's defeating the object of it being a flat paint. The primer is the primer is matte in its finish, and that is so that the paint can key onto it. But equally, you can argue that, well, the reason that the primer is porous is so that it's the base coat is able to key onto that porous product really well. So, you know, it seems to be polarized views. You're either up, you know, the old ways seem to be that people would wet flat, and now people are saying, no, you should dry flat, and there's a special paper that you should use. Well, I'm going to wet flat everything, and it will all be dried out thoroughly before I apply any base coat. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to start off with some 600 wet to dry. I'm not going to soak the panel, but the wet to dry is already soaking in some water now, and you know, the water almost lubricates the flatting motion, the rubbing motion. It allows the paper not to clog. Also prevents the dust, which is good for you, but you will feel straight away that the panel is much better after it's been wet flatted. So I'm just going to start with some 600. I'm going to move to some 1500 to get a really, really fine finish. Also, before I start, I'm going to be putting a bit of a guide coat on, and a guide coat really is just it's almost like a dusting of paint on the panel. You're not applying it thick or anything like that. It really is almost like a shadow of colour on the panel that you're about to flat, and you put that on really so you can see where you've been with the flatting. It's very easy to start wet flatting, rub your hand across it and think, oh yeah, that's all of it done. but it's really interesting, because if you do put a guide coat on, you'll think, oh well, I haven't actually done all of that yet, or I haven't really rubbed it down as much as I need to. The idea being is you rub the surface until the guide coat has gone, and you will notice a difference. It's a good thing to follow, so you're not rubbing too hard, and equally you are making sure you've covered every part of the panel. And then, as I say, we'll dry everything out. What else am I going to be doing today? Well, unfortunately, the mudguard has reacted again with the primer. You know, it's that white paint again. It's just awful stuff. So I don't know whether you can see that on here. It's all reacted there, and it's reacted all down here as well. So it's going to have to be taken right back to the plastic. I'll test a bit of the paint stripper on it first to make sure it doesn't react badly with the plastic. So I'll be looking for any warping or almost burning of the plastic, really. And if not, if it doesn't, then I'm going to coat it, and it can just sit, and I'll coat it a few times because it's all got to go. I've got enough primer to redo it. Don't know whether I'll get to do that today. Probably later on today I will, but we'll just have to see how we go on. So we've got all of the body panels ready, tank, everything else is done. Just got to get this redone, and we'll see where we go from there. As I say, it's really important, I think, for the panels to be wet flatted before any paint is applied, and I understand that there are opinions either way, but certainly my advice would be to wet flat and then just make sure the panel is thoroughly dried before applying any paint. But let's see how we get on. Okay, let's crack on. Thank you very much. So, as I said, we're going to start off on the, we're going to start off on one of the side panels. You can see it looks very nice and flat now. We're going to use a 600 paper. Okay, it's going to be nice and wet out the bucket. And we're not going to scrub at it. You know, we're looking at really smooth, even pressure across the panel, because what you want to be careful of as well is applying too much pressure on the edges and going through to the plastic or the metal, because obviously if you do that you're going to have to reprime the panel. So you've got to be a bit careful, keep having a feel of it, and you'll be able to tell as well, because if you rub your hand down the section that you haven't yet flatted and you compare it to the one that you have, the difference is chalk and cheese. This is so smooth and nice, and it will create a surface which will give a really smooth finish certainly when you get to applying the colour. And that's what we're looking for. We don't want any swirl marks, we don't want any marks in the paint, nothing like that. And that's what this wet flatting will give us. It'll give us a lovely, clean surface for applying that top coat. Keep the paper wet so you don't catch anything, and keep feeling it as well, and keep an eye, as I say, on the edges to make sure that you don't go through. Okay. Working my way around the panel, feeling the edges as we go. And you might notice as well little imperfections under the paint, which after wet flatting you won't be able to see anymore, and certainly they won't show when you've got some base coat on, because Again, being very careful on the corners because I don't want to go through and then have to re-prime. You just see there where I risk going through there. See how easy that is to get that edge. Okay, just going to apply the guide coat here. Like I say, it's really just a dusting of colour. That's about it really, that's all I want to put on. And just give that a few minutes to dry off. Hi, so it's just a mid catch up really. I think we've done about as much as we can do so far this morning now. All the body panels, tank and everything's ready for some base coat. I think we're going to be doing that this afternoon. As you saw, the mudguard, blimey, right down to blue. I mean, there's some people, it's still got this tape up the middle of the mudguard in the recess. It's still got the black tape under all those different colours of paint. So yeah, I think that'll come out all right now. I've just got a bit of primer on it, just waiting for it to dry. I haven't really got the right sort of primer. I haven't got any bare plastic primer, so we'll just have to see what happens as it dries. It looks like it might be reacting a little bit, but we'll see. But as I say, hopefully we can get some base coat on this afternoon, and yeah, we'll go from there. But it'll give everything some more time to dry, you know, if I give it an hour or so. So yeah, good, all good. Productive morning. Obviously the cat's been helping, so yeah, all good. I'll see you in a bit. Bye.